And you will know my name is the Lord.
I am God.
Damn you all.
And we are live at long bloody last. Welcome one and welcome all to the one, the only Junk Shop Library channel, home of organization above all, home of improv Bible study, where we read the King James, the authorized version of 1611, cover to cover. Eventually, it's taken us 3 years to get this far in, so we'll see how that goes. But as a friend of the channel recently pointed out, by friend of the channel, I mean its first and primary supporter, my wonderful wife Julie from the Wine and Reason channel, if we ever want to get to the New Testament, we'll eventually have to slog through the rest of the Old. And we're stuck in the Minor Prophets right now, so it's taken a while. Our last congregation, I found out while I was setting up this stream half an hour ago, was on the 19th of June. It is now the 17th of July. It has officially taken us longer to get through the book of Micah than it did to write and to translate. 1611 in real time, y'all. Okay. First and foremost, now that we've scared off anybody who's bothered by any of this, or by all of this, this is not a family-friendly Bible study. This is a foul-mouthed, middle-aged, non-binary atheist ripping this shit a new one and using the appropriate language. There's also heavy consumption of caffeinated beverages. And Mr. Caesar, if you're ever watching, yes, indeed, you can get the merch for the channel. It's attached in one of the links somewhere down in the description. It's at a link tree because I can't be bothered to do all that searching and copying and pasting anymore. And I don't have a document that I could have put all of those links in and just copied and pasted every time, and I just now realized that. Okay, well, hello new people. That I have noticed an uptick in views of a very random selection of stuff from the deep catalog on this channel. So like I say at the beginning, welcome one and welcome all. And special thank you and shout out to an old friend and supporter of the channel and of myself personally, the one and only PJ, who has valiantly been trying to, I found out, get my attention in the comments for a little while. I will touch base with you. Good to see you again. Okay, let's see what we've got going on in this fast-moving little chat over here. Y'all either talking a lot or I've got a lag and this thing is catching up all at once. Hive Science is here. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you are doing well. Julie, Wine and Reason. The person who convinced me it would be a good idea to get this hot mess of a show off the ground to begin with and has... Thank you. I love you. Mr. Shadow Kitty, good to see you as ever. Ring, good to see you. All right. So, I feel like there was another announcement I was going to make, or shout out I was going to do, or general purpose something I was going to say. Don't have any fucking clue what it was. So, absent any fucking clue, let's launch into the book of no fucking clue. The big book of war crimes and outdated regulations, utter madness and abuse. Wow. Oh, can I do that YouTuber trick where you hold up your hand? No, because of the glare. Okay, well, merch. Yay. Got to do the things. All right, so I went back to the last three. We had finished chapter 3 of the book of the prophet Micah, the most confusing thus far of the minor prophets, just because Mr. Micah apparently couldn't write for shit or organize his thoughts worth a good goddamn, or apparently afford an editor for his prophetic word. So, and I say the minor prophets because we've had no thousand-eyed angels on unicycles or any of that kind of crap in the minor prophets so far, but we've a handful left to go. I did mention the whole non-family friendly thing, right? As if anybody stuck around that far through that introduction. And Angie Dell, another old friend of the channel. Good to see you. All right, Micah, chapter 4. But in the last... Fuck me. This isn't even the book for that. Okay, well, it's on the page, so we got to read it. But in the last days, it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. And many nations shall come and say, Come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree. None shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts hath spoken it. For all people will walk, every one in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. In that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. And I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion, and the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail. Be in pain, and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. Now, Also many nations are gathered against thee that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion. But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they his counsel. For he shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy hoofs brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth. And there we have chapter 4, which pretty much boils down just to, oh, look, another restored Israel prophecy. Yeah. Okay, so in chapters 1, 2, and 3, we had a prophetic revelation of the divine right of kings. We had a curse upon bad landlords, and we had some, if memory serves, some like weird husbandry advice, I think. Chapter 4 is just, yeah, it sucks now, but eventually all the righteous will rise to power, and the baddies will get what's coming to them. Microraptor, hello, good to see you. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this chapter because there's just not much here. It's just, I mean, it's all what I just said, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. But I can talk with words. Geo-Sam, hey, JunkshopLibrary, good to see you. And honestly, other than the good guy is going to rise to power, yee-haw, the only other thing in this chapter is nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and swords into plowshares, and no more war. And I don't really have anything original to say about that passage. I also don't want to dwell on it too long because it's just going to give us all flashbacks of, Advent season Sunday sermons. The bulk of my audience here, at least so far as I can tell, is at least some flavor of ex-Christian, leaning heavy towards the various Protestant denominations. It's just, there's not a lot here. After a very busy and incoherent first 3 chapters, 4 is just kind of rah-rah yee-haw. Chapter 5? Because nevermore, good to see you. What did you miss? Not damn much. Book of Micah, chapter 4, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and good guy's going to rise to power. Tomorrow belongs to me. Chapter 5. Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He hath laid siege against us. They shall smite the judge. Smite! It's been a while. Smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon the cheek. But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. Therefore will he give them up until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. And he shall stand and feed in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God, and they shall abide. For now shall he be great unto the ends of the earth. And this man shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land. And when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. And they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod in the entrances thereof. Thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian when he cometh into our land, and when he treadeth within our borders. And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many people, as a dew from the Lord, as the showers upon the grass, that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who, if he go through, both treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thine enemies shall be cut off. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that I will cut off thy horses out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy chariots, and I will cut off the cities of thy land, and throw down all thy strongholds. And I will cut off witchcrafts out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. Thy graven images also will I cut off, and thy standing images out of the midst of thee, and thou shalt no more worship the work of thine hands. And I will pluck up thy groves out of the midst of thee, so will I destroy thy cities. And I will execute vengeance in anger and fury upon the heathen, such as they have not heard. And there we have chapter 5. Okay, I'll deal with this mess here in a second. If you remember what I said, I almost said last month, because it's been a hot minute since we congregated. If you remember what I said last time more than once, and what I've said at least once already, Robert X, two already coming to passes is comings to pass is like attorneys general. Anyway, what I've said more than once over the course of this book in particular, the book of the prophet Micah. This dude can't make up his mind. This is like, a minor prophet assembled via William S. Burroughs' cut-up method. This is all over the fucking place, is this mess. Okay, so in chapter 4, we had, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. In chapter 5, we go forth in great vengeance and furious anger as a lion among sheep. We rend and devour. We tear down the high places and yank out your special trees and smash and and dash and absolutely wreak havoc, and my camera is froze. Why does it always freeze when I'm making weird faces and the Bible's not on the screen? Wow. How's anybody, because you know that's what's going to auto-select as the thumbnail. So how is anybody supposed to know what this mess is about? Okay, so anyway. But do you see what I mean? It's like back and it's all over the place. Chapter 3 was bad landlords will be driven forth bald as a naughty woman. And then you get into chapter 4, and it's, you know, the righteous will rise to power and spread the word of God throughout the land, and nobody's going to fight each other anymore. Then we get into chapter 5, and it's great vengeance, furious anger, smiting all the bad nations and ripping out the sacred trees of other people. Like, pick a lane, motherfucker. Minor Prophets Mad Libs, says Ring. Exactly. Okay. Before we go into the next chapter, and we may run a little long today because we are gonna get through the book of the prophet Micah, because there's no point in dragging a 7-chapter minor prophet out into more than 2 live streams. I gotta go back into the chat here for a second and make sure I read what I thought I was reading out of the corner of my eye, because there was some weirdness going on here for a second. And Robert X, another old friend of the channel, good to see you. Okay. When I saw, sorry, I don't want to pull anything up on the screen I hadn't read and thought about, because I'm a little worried about some things for some reasons. And if you've YouTubed like ever at all, or done anything on social media ever at all, you know how interesting that can get, how fast. Got somebody asking weird questions about fanged frogs. This is the book of Micah. If you came into this one thinking this was like Ezekiel or one of those weird books of prophets, you might want to revisit the chronology of the channel. I think it's troll. Yep, it's a troll. Okay. You're so okay. Yeah, enough time on this. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so yeah, bad editor or no editor. Oh, it's not a problem, Angie, and I would have seen it regardless, because it comes through the streaming system live, anyways. Okay, let's see. Yeah, and I know what I wanted to loop back to, chapter 5, verse 2. If that sounded familiar but in different verbiage, no matter the fact that it is the King James Version that most of us are familiar with, that's through pop media, if nothing else, because don't get much more public domain than the year 1611, which is why we're doing that here. But thou, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though thou art little among the thousands of Judah, all that stuff. Yeah, we'll actually revisit that in slightly different verbiage if we ever get to the New Testament, because that's I think it's Matthew leans pretty heavy on that during the birth narrative of Jesus. All right, So yeah, in chapter 4, nobody's going to lift up hand against anybody, and chapter 5, everybody going to get their ass smoked. So what can you do? Chapter 6. Hear ye now what the Lord saith. Arise, contend thou before the mountains, and let the hills hear thy voice. Hear ye, O mountains, the Lord's controversy, and ye strong foundations of the earth, for the Lord hath a controversy with his people, and he will plead with Israel. O my people, what have I done unto thee? And wherein have I wearied thee? Testify against me. For I brought thee up out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed thee out of the house of servants. And I sent before thee Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. O my people, remember now what Balak, king of Moab, consulted, and what Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him from Shittim unto Gilgal, that ye may know the righteousness of the Lord. Wherewith shall I come before the Lord, and bow myself before the Most High God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, or with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He hath shewed thee, O man, what is good. And what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God? The Lord's voice crieth unto the city, and the man of wisdom shall see thy name. Hear ye the rod, and who hath appointed it? Are there yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the scant measure that is abominable? Shall I count them pure with the wicked balances, and with the bag of deceitful weights? For the rich men thereof are full of violence, and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. Therefore also will I make thee sick in smiting thee, in making thee desolate because of thy sins. Thou shalt eat, but not be satisfied, and thy casting down shall be in the midst of thee. And thou shalt take hold, but shalt not deliver. And that which thou deliverest will I give up to the sword. Jesus. Thou shalt sow, but thou shalt not reap. Thou shalt tread the olives, but thou shalt not anoint thee with oil. And sweet wine, but shalt not drink wine. For the statutes of Omri are kept, and all the works of the house of Ahab. And ye walk in their counsels, that I should make thee a desolation, and the inhabitants thereof an hissing. Therefore ye shall bear the reproach of my people. And there we have chapter 6. God almighty. Fuck me. Holy shit. Okay. God damn. I got okay. There's analogies I really want to draw here, and some of them are being drawn in the chat. But there are some things I just got to be a little careful with here, out of consideration for, well, people, and also just, I'm just not comfortable. But this, I mean, this chapter, this is like the greatest hits, right? The Yahweh's greatest hits just goes clear the fuck on back to Exodus. Like, We backfire. And Paul Chamish. Holy crap. Good to see you. I bet you're in the back. Okay. Paul has been a friend of the channel and a friend to me since way back, clear back to Exodus, as a matter of fact. So timing is indeed, as they say, everything. Yeah. So, yeah. How dare you not do what I tell you? Because look at all the good shit I did for you way back in the day before your grandparents were born. I mean, it's an unbelievably toxic approach to an interpersonal relationship when it's in person. But when you're talking about like your ancestry, your bloodline, I mean, this is just fucking stupid. Look at this ridiculous shit. Okay, so yeah, and I was wrong though. Not greatest hits, because greatest hits would have been like, you know, Exodus, Joshua, Judges, right? But who do we bring to the table here? Moses, Aaron, Miriam, Balaam, and Ahab. Like what in the name? Okay, so Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. I'll grant you. I mean, they were kind of a tag team to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, where they'd been sent as punishment for being naughty, or for the fact that they would be naughty in the future, or because Joseph's brothers kind of sucked, but didn't kill him and sold him into slavery instead. I mean, it is a weird. The why is some figuring out shit, but to jump from like the foundational story of this people, to jump from that clear way the fuck hell over to Balaam. I mean, Balaam, Balaam is a real short story. It's literally 3 chapters, and there's a bunch of extra crap, sort of random scattered in there. If you're interested in my approach to that story, back 2 entire fucking stage sets ago, and back when I had hair, lots of hair. It's in the deep catalog in the channel, starting under the title Balaam 1 and the Ass Saw the Angel. Okay, so, but the story of Balaam boils down real short, which is King Balak wants his enemies cursed. So he asks the predominant prophet at the time to curse the enemies of Israel, and God tells Balaam not to, and so Balaam tries to go and do it anyway, and gets hit with an angelic roadblock, and then it gets real confusing real fast, because it like he simultaneously he curses a people who somehow simultaneously are the right person to curse and the wrong person, like over the course of a handful of verses. And then God gets mad at him for cursing the group that he originally told him to curse instead of the people that Balak paid him to curse. And then he dies, and that's the end of it. And there's a lot of going up and down mountains. There's not a lot to it. So to have 3 examples included, 2 good ones, sort of, and 1 bad one, absolutely. The Exodus and bad King Ahab and Balaam. To make his point. It's very strange. I mean, it's like, doing Hellraiser 1 and Hellraiser 2, and then the Lance Henriksen straight to DVD one that's set in the computer role-playing game. I mean, there's no, like, what? Who? Somebody signed off on this. Somebody decided to keep this in the canon. This was somebody's baby. Somebody on some committee at the Council of Who's-He What's-It was absolutely hell-bent on having this particular book left in, because there's not a lot here. The only other reason I can think of so far, and we've got 1 more chapter, it's only 7 chapters, we've got 1 more chapter to go, but so far, the only reason to leave it, oh, nope, I lied. Nope, this was left in because Matthew leans on it so heavily during the birth narrative. Okay, never mind. Strike that. Alrighty. Well, so much for that. Unfortunately, because Matthew leaned on this verse so hard, we're stuck with this stupid-ass book, including a very poorly assembled list of greatest hits and a really gross metaphor for how Israel's going to get smoked for their sins. Thy casting down shall be in the midst of thee. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in terms of what casting down means in 1611 biblical English, but given that we go from there to thou shalt take hold, but shalt not deliver, and that which thou deliverest will I give up to the sword. Y'all smart people. I think you can. Yeah, y'all got me. Okay, so since we're stuck with this book because Bethlehem Ephratah is least among the thousands of Judah, and yet out of Bakertown shall come a Messiah, we've got 1 more chapter, chapter 7. Woe is me! I am not making this shit up. I would hold it up to the camera if the camera won't. Ring is right. It's like the crowd pleasers with the DJ's one obscure favorite thrown in. Yep. Chapter 7 literally opens with an exclamation point after the statement, "Woe is me! For I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the grape gleanings of the vintage. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. The good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie in wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net. That they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward. And the great man, he uttereth his mischievous desire, so they wrap it up. The best of them is as a briar, the most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of thy watchman and thy visitation cometh, now shall be their perplexity. Trust ye not in a friend, put ye not confidence in a guide. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. For the son dishonoreth the father, the daughter riseth up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. Therefore I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. I will bear the indignation of the Lord, because I have sinned against him. Until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me, he will bring me forth to the light, and I shall behold his righteousness. When she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, Where is the Lord thy God? Mine eyes shall behold her, now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. In the day that thy walls are to be built, in that day shall the decree be far removed. In that day also he shall come forth unto thee even from Assyria, and from the fortified cities, and from the fortress even to the river, and from sea to sea, and from mountain to mountain. Notwithstanding, the land shall be desolate because of them that dwell therein, for the fruit of their doings. Feed thy people with thy rod, the flock of thine heritage, which dwell solitarily in the wood, in the midst of Carmel. Let them feed in Bashan and Gilead, as in the days of old. According to the days of thy coming out of the land of Egypt, will I shew unto him marvelous things. The nations shall see and be confounded at all their might. They shall lay their hand upon their mouth, their ears shall be deaf. They shall lick the dust like a serpent. They shall move out of their holes like worms of the earth. They shall be afraid of the Lord our God, and shall fear because of thee. Who is a God like unto thee, that pardoneth iniquity, and passeth by the transgression of the remnant of his heritage? He retaineth not his anger forever, because he delighteth in mercy. He will turn again. He will have compassion upon us. He will subdue our iniquities, and thou wilt cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. Thou wilt perform the truth to Jacob, and the mercy to Abraham, which thou hast sworn unto our fathers from the days of old. That's the end of it. That's the end of the book of Micah. Rod, R-O-D. Feed thy people with thy rod. Yeah. Okay. we got more bad editing and or bad writing. Not a lot else. Because that chapter is pretty much just chapter before last, but in the first person rather than the third. Right? I mean, as I'm looking, I find I'm looking very intently into the camera and gesturing emphatically, which of course y'all can't see because the camera's fucked up. Okay, yeah, don't buy a Luratech. It looks nice on the box, it gets good reviews, but it's a piece of shit. Okay, so anyway. Yeah, it starts off with this weird, oh, I done fucked up. God hates me, but it's for good reason. After all he's done for me, I'm a bad person. I deserve this misery that's upon me. Bad prophet. No, no, no. Okay. But then God's gonna make it all okay in the end, because he aboundeth in mercy. Are we talking about the same God? Like the same God that in the last chapter we were losing all the babies to the sword? The same God that in the last chapter was I mean, chapter before last was smiting down with great vengeance and furious anger all the nations that don't kiss his ass? The same aboundeth in mercy? What kind of deliver me from that mercy? I don't need that kind of mercy. That kind of mercy is going to get me smoked, and I would prefer not. Thank you very much indeed. I mean, literally, just forget the first 3 chapters. In the 4 chapters that we've read today, we've stricken entire nations with horrible plagues and sickness. We've wiped out the heathen and also managed to convert them to righteousness, so that we could all rise to power together and rule over nobody else because we're all on God's side. And simultaneously we're full of mercy, as is our God, and nobody's going to make war anymore. Well, I mean, at one level, I guess if everybody's on the side of the Lord and ruling over a peaceful earth together, there's nobody to do the war against. What are you going to do war against? The fucking desert dragons that Ezekiel was always going on about? The big fish that sometimes eats naughty prophets? I mean, what? Damn cockatrices and owls in the desert that God is always threatening people with? It makes no sense. Yeah, Microraptor got it exactly. He who must say, I am a merciful God, is no true merciful God. Yeah, I mean, this is bad writing. I will say there was one verse in particular that kind of leapt out at me, came a boinging out of the box like Jack at the very beginning. because it makes sense when verse 1 starts. Yes, exactly. One caca once, then a caca two, then a caca thrice. Okay, so it makes sense when it starts. I am all withered in the desert sun, like the leftovers that have to be gleaned. The good stuff all got taken. But then that last clause, my soul desired the first ripe fruit. I mean, this pouty little prophet, right? He spends the entire chapter pinging back and forth. Oh, and harmonica man. I'm sorry, I did see you pop in. I was reading at the time, and I meant to say hello earlier. Good to see you. Caca quartz. Caca quartz. This is getting real weird real fast, and I'm here for it. Okay. He spends the entire chapter just sort of ping-ponging all over the place between, I deserve this, I deserve my misery, God will help me when God's good and ready and feels I done stood in the corner long enough for my naughtiness, and just absolutely bitching and moaning and whining and complaining and wailing all over the place. I mean, just make up your damn mind. Make up your mind. Pick a fucking lane. I mean, Jesus. There's not, and not being. I mean, he's between third person and second person within the same sentence. Then he jumps over to first person for a handful of verses. Then there, like in the last chapter, there was that bit where it was the voice of God, and then it was the voice of the people of Israel, speaking as one. And yet it was within the same verse, so I didn't catch on that was going on until it obviously didn't make any sense halfway through the next verse. I mean, this is terrible. All right, so I'm calling it. Okay, I'll say it. Octocock. Y'all blame Angie. I just report them. I don't make them up. Okay, so I'm calling it. I'm writing off the book of Micah entirely. I mean, just an absolute loss. The only good thing to have come out of this 7-chapter book that has taken us an entire fucking month to get through, because I can't schedule for shit, has been that I was able to plug my Balaam videos back from 2.5 years ago, which I kind of liked how those came out. Otherwise, there ain't nothing going on here. The only thing we'll be able to call back this to for, I mean, there's no tap dancing, thousand-eyed angels on tricycles. There's no man-eating fish. There's no zombie army in the desert. There's no, God farts. There's no nothing. Nothing here. The only thing this will ever be good for is when we finally get into the book of Matthew and we can say, oh, I remember that. That was way back in Micah. And then we'll be able to refer back to this one where Angie made me say octagon. Okay, I would normally call it here and, do my outro, plug myself, as it were. But we're closing in on the end of the Minor Prophets, and the next one is Nahum, which is literally only a fraction over a page. So I'm going to tack on Nahum for bonus points for those of you who made it this far into the stream and or watched it all the way this far in the future. So here we go. I'll be honest. I have read in Extraction a handful of verses out of Micah without being able to remember that was where they were from. But I've never read the book of Micah before to my remembrance. Nahum? I got nothing. I don't have any trivia. I got nothing. I have no idea what we're about to roll into. Will Nahum, says Ring, will Nahum be more coherent than Micah? We shall see. It's gotta be, right? Fucking Naked Lunch is more coherent than Micah. Okay. Nahum, chapter 1. The burden of Nineveh. The book of the vision of Nahum, the Elkoshite. God is jealous, and the Lord revengeth. The Lord revengeth and is furious. The Lord will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserveth wrath for his enemies. The Lord is slow to anger, and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. The Lord hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. He rebuketh the sea, and maketh it dry, and drieth up all the rivers. Bashan languisheth, and Carmel, and the flower of Lebanon languisheth. The mountains quake at him, and the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence, yea, the world, and all that dwell therein. Who can stand before his indignation? And who can abide in the fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. But with an overrunning flood he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. What do ye imagine against the Lord? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up the second time. For while they may be folden together as thorns, and while they are drunken as drunkards, they shall be devoured as stubble fully dry. There is one come out of thee that imagineth evil against the Lord, a wicked counselor. Thus saith the Lord, though they be quiet, and likewise many, yet thus shall they be cut down when he shall pass through. Though I have afflicted thee, I will afflict thee no more. For now will I break his yoke from off thee, and will burst thy bonds in sunder. And the Lord hath given a commandment concerning thee, that no more of thy name be sown. Out of the house of thy gods will I cut off the graven image and the molten image. I will make thy grave, for thou art vile. Behold, upon the mountains the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. O Judah, keep thy solemn feasts, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. he is utterly cut off. There we have the first chapter of the book of the prophet Nahum. The fuck am I reading? Yeah, slow to anger, but full of smiting, stamping so hard he makes clouds with the dust, melting mountains. That's a big one with all the minor prophets. Like, there's got to be this. There's some teeny little niche market area of Old Testament, like hardcore Old Testament scholarship. There's got to be that knows why this particular phrase occurs so often in the minor prophets specifically. I mean, this is if ever I've seen evidence of there being either a literary or a linguistic tradition. I mean, this I mean, not anymore, but this meant something once upon a time. Because it's all over the fucking place. It's in almost every one of them, some of them more than once. The hills being melted, specifically hills, specifically melted because of the wrath of God. So it means something. It did at one time. It meant something. Yeah, slow to anger, great in power, will not acquit the wicked, jealous, revengeth, furious, vengeance, reserveth wrath. So stay on his good side and you'll be fine. Piss him off and you're going to get smoked. Smoked, I say smoked. So long, Tux. Okay. So what in, I mean, like, I get it. I just don't get it. Like, I understand intellectually and nerdy rodent, the most batshit art on Twitter. Good to see you as ever. So the thing I mean, like, I can follow it, except that it doesn't follow. I mean, does this? Do you get what I'm saying? It's like fantasy football. Like, intellectually, I more or less understand, like, mechanically what these people are doing. I just don't fucking get it, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I understand what's going on. That it's just yet another iteration of, behave or get spanked, and not in a fun way. But it's just, this is about the most extreme incarnation of this. So far, we've got quite a few minor prophets to go. Sorry to burst y'all's bubble. Not today, we don't, because we've already been going over a fucking hour. But like back in the days of Kings, Judges, Chronicles, that when there was actual stuff going on, story to tell, things actually happening, people with lineages that made any sense. You know, none of this Nahum the Elkoshite. What the fuck is an Elkoshite? I mean, obviously it's a son of Elkosh, but who the hell is Elkosh? Don't know. Hadn't encountered that name before. I mean, maybe we did back in Numbers, but who fucking remembers any one specific name out of Numbers? I don't. And I read the whole fucking thing out loud over the course of about a month. Okay. All of which is to say, back in those pages of the story, there were always remnants. You know, you had the women and children and elderly being, you know, captured by Israel and converted by the sword and raised up to become nice Yahwisps. I mean, but this is kill them all and let God sort them out. Except that it's not even kill them all and let God sort them out. It's, you know, God, I saw in the chat, you know, sooner or later God will cut you down. I mean, this is, like it's said there on the page, God ain't gonna have to smite no second time. You know, this is take off and nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. You know, make sure you do this right the first time, because there'll be no second option. This is about as extreme as it gets. So yeah, I'm not going to tell you again, boy. I don't know why God just turned into a drunk redneck, but hey, it is what it is. Not to necessarily blanket throw shade at all rednecks. I've met some very nice ones. All right, I'm going to move on before I get myself too much in trouble. Nahum 2. There's only 2 chapters. Nahum 2. He that dasheth in pieces is come up before thy face. Keep the munition, watch the way, make thy loins strong, fortify thy power mightily. For the Lord hath turned away the excellency of Jacob as the excellency of Israel. For the emptiers have emptied them out and marred their vine branches. The shield of his mighty men is made red. The valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots shall be with flaming torches in the day of his preparation, and the fir trees shall be terribly shaken. The chariots shall rage in the streets. They shall justle one another in the broad ways. They shall seem like torches. They shall run like the lightnings. He shall recount his worthies. They shall stumble in their walk. They shall make haste to the wall thereof, and the defense shall be prepared. The gates of the rivers shall be opened, and the palace shall be dissolved. And Huzab shall be led away captive. She shall be brought up, and her maids shall lead her as with the voice of doves tabering upon their breasts. But Nineveh is of old like a pool of water. Yet they shall flee away. Stand, stand, shall they cry, but none shall look back. Take ye the spoil of silver, take the spoil of gold, for there is none end of the store and glory out of all the pleasant furniture. She is empty and void and waste, and the heart melteth, and the knees smite together, and much pain is in all loins, and the faces of them all gather blackness. Where is the dwelling of the lions, and the feeding place of the young lions, where the lion, even the old lion, walked, and the lions whelped, and none made them afraid? The lion did tear in pieces enough for his whelps, and strangled for his lionesses, and filled his holes with prey, and his dens with ravin. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will burn her chariots in the smoke, and the sword shall devour thy young lions, and I will cut off thy prey from the earth, and the voice of thy messengers shall no more be heard. That's chapter 2. Oh, wait, there's a third one. It's short, though. Anyway, chapter 2. So, it's going to be bad because God's pissed off. Yeah, Nahum, exactly. Nahum does not understand lions. Yeah, well, for that matter, Nahum doesn't know what is a lion. Not a lot of lions in Palestine. Certainly not that you can observe in their wild behavior. So it's, it's got to be the, just whatever the next best thing is. That it's probably like that cockatrice issue. There's got to be, it is some obscure Old Testament word that the translators in 1611 had never encountered before, and just by context kind of pieced it together as best they could and filled in the blanks and decided in this instance to go with lion. I mean, it's obviously some kind of predatory animal, although lions don't dig holes to use as larders, which Nahum's lions do. So I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what they are talking about. Light cigarette, pause for coffee. The Junk Shop Library story. Cheers. So yeah, it's going to be bad because God's pissed off. There's going to be war. He's decided to turn. This is obviously during the days of the divided kingdom, because just as he turned away the excellency of Israel, so shall he turn away the excellency of Jacob. He's going to bring a vast army of charioteers against them. And then they're going to take captive Huzab. Huzzab. Huzab. All right, I'll bite. What's Huzab? Let's find out. Let's ask the marvelous machine that lives in my pocket. Huzzab. That's a U. Put it there. Type a U. God damn it. Huzab. Okay, first answer. Encyclopedia of the Bible at BibleGateway.com. Let's see. Out of context, the form is easily understood as a hofal perfect of verb, and then it just gives it in Hebrew, no phonetic, meaning he or it is established, settled, or determined. Cf. the participle of this stem of the same verb in Genesis 28. In context, however, it is exceedingly difficult. Okay, here we go. BibleGateway.com says we don't fucking know. All right. So, exceedingly difficult. Taken as a verb, its meaning fits the sentence with extreme difficulty without resorting to forced etymologies, and then leaves Nahum 2:7 without a subject. The verbs in verse 7, which is where we're looking at, the verbs in verse 7 are feminine, and there is no feminine noun in the context that can function as a subject. The words gates and palace in verse 6 are masculine. If it is taken as a noun, its meaning can only be guessed at. Various suggestions have been made, most of them connecting the word by various etymologies, either with the Assyrian queen or the city of Nineveh. Others have suggested an Assyrian proper name, perhaps that of the queen, but no etymology from Assyrian has ever been suggested. The text may be corrupt. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. I'm not the only one who couldn't figure out what the fuck that was supposed to mean or whether it was metaphor or not. BibleGateway.com says the text may be corrupt. All right, so verse 7, we don't fucking know. Moving right along. Nineveh's going to run away and Israel is going to pillage it. Or rather, Jacob or possibly Israel. It's kind of hard to tell who this book is directed at, because chapter 1 opens with, "This is the burden of Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite." But then it goes on to say that as Israel got smote, so shall Jacob be smote. So who is doing this pillaging of Nineveh at the bidding of the Lord? Take ye, verse 9, take ye the spoil of silver, take the spoil of gold, for there is none end of the store and glory out of all the pleasant furniture. Yes, exactly. Yes. Julie Wine and Reason says, the inerrant word of God may be corrupt. Take that, apologists. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's the Elkoshites. Maybe they were hiding behind the door when God decided to smite Jacob in addition to Israel. So the sons of Elkosh are going to go steal all of Nineveh's shit now that she ran away. And then there's this weird David Attenborough business about the natural behavior of lions with regard to food. And then Nahum realizes he's kind of wandered into the weeds and away from his prophecy, because he's obviously either high as fuck or drunk off his ass, and he's just rambling his prophetic word all over the place. And smite and smite and smite the angels out of Africa, the angels out of Munford, Tennessee. I don't fucking know. And he then tries to stumble around in a circle and decide that it wasn't that he just got distracted because a nature documentary came on. It's that he was deliberately trying to draw this analogy about whoever is the protagonist of this book, presumably the Elkoshites, being the ones who, or maybe it was the Ninevites, except now they're not good lions anymore. They're all fled and old and I don't fucking know. The whole fucking Bible is corrupt, says Paul. Yep. Yep, pretty much. Especially the 1611 nonsense, because we've got the documentation of what King James specifically said the translation from the translators were to lean into and or leave out and or make sure to include. All right, enough of this nonsense. Let's do chapter 3 in Nahum, then we'll wrap this shit up. Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. The noise of a whip, and the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and of the prancing horses, and of the jumping chariots. The horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear, and there is a multitude of slain, and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts. And I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And I will cast abominable filth upon thee, and make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. And it shall come to pass that all they that look upon thee shall flee from thee, and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will bemoan her? Whence shall I seek comforters for thee? Art thou better than populous No, that was situate among the rivers, that had the waters round about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea? Ethiopia and Egypt were her strength, and it was infinite. Put and Lubim were thy helpers, yet was she carried away. She went into captivity. Her young children were also dashed in pieces at the top of all the streets, and they cast lots for her honorable men, and all her great men were bound in chains. Thou also shalt be drunken, thou shalt be hid, thou also shalt seek strength because of the enemy. All thy strongholds shall be like fig trees with the first ripe figs. If they be shaken, they shall even fall into the mouth of the eater. Behold, thy people in the midst of thee are women. The gates of thy land shall be set wide open unto thine enemies. The fire shalt devour thy bars. Draw thee waters for the siege, fortify thy strongholds, go into clay and tread the mortar, make strong the brick kiln. There shall the fire devour thee, the sword shall cut thee off, it shall eat thee up like the cankerworm. Make thyself many as the cankerworm, make thyself many as the locusts. Thou hast multiplied thy merchants above the stars of heaven. The cankerworm spoileth and flieth away. Thy crowned are as the locusts, and thy captains as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day. But when the sun ariseth, they flee away, and their place is not known where they are. Thy shepherds slumber, O king of Assyria. Thy nobles shall dwell in the dust. Thy people is scattered upon the mountains, and no man gathereth them. There is no healing of thy bruise. Thy wound is grievous. All that hear the bruit of thee shall clap the hands over thee. For upon whom hath not thy wickedness passed continually? And there we have the end of the book of the prophet Nahum the Elkoshite. It was shite. So, pardon me. All right. Well, I don't know, y'all. It at one level, it's just kind of more of the same, except worse. I mean, like the smiting's a little bit more hardcore. The slut shaming is a whole lot more aggressive, and the ending is more abrupt, and it just shitting on Nineveh more. I'll be honest. I do not know what is the grudge of the countries Israel and Jacob against Nineveh. Um, there was a grudge. We know that. It's obvious reading the text. But, I mean, Nineveh was not a rampaging horde threatening to sweep away the children of Israel at any moment. Nineveh was a port city. It was a trading town. Not to say that capitalism doesn't have some marked disadvantages, but it was. I mean, it was a port city. Lone Wanderer's Bunker. Long time no see. Good to see you. Oh, you got caught up watching Resident Evil? Yeah, I completely understand. Okay, so Nineveh bad, somebody good. We're not 100% sure who, although probably the Elkoshites, because Israel and Judah either have been or will be swept away. Ring, I don't honestly know. Wasn't Nineveh a prominent Assyrian city? I'm drawing a blank. So, yeah. So somebody's going to smite Nineveh, and heaven knows if there's one thing that Old Testament writers love to do, it's that when they want to make sure you know a country or a city or whatever is going to get smoked by the wrath of God, righteous, good, and proper, there is no better way to express that than to metaphor them into being a woman and take her clothes off. Boo! Female body, yeah. Nakedness, blood. With a knife could you cut the misogyny? Oh my God, this fucking book. War crimes and outdated regulations. Or shit. Yeah. I'm kind of realizing why the book of the prophet Nahum wasn't exactly something that was leaned into hard when in church when I was growing up. Oh, the capital of Assyria. Well, never mind. That makes sense. The capital of Assyria from 704 to 681 BCE, according to the British Museum. Yeah, well, never mind. If it was the capital of Assyria, no wonder the children of Israel took umbrage at it. Okay, so yeah, really coming to understand why Sunday school and church didn't lean in too hard to Nahum. MICAH, even, they didn't lean into real hard, and it's quoted in one of the birth narratives. I kept saying Matthew a little while ago, and that may well not be right. It's one of them. It's one of them. It's not John. Okay, yeah. So just exactly the same as all of the rest of the prophecies. God's gonna smite your enemies and be good or go stand in a corner while I kill all your babies. All right. So who wants to explain to me? And this is a serious question. Okay, this is not me being a smartass, which I've been known to be once or twice in my lifetime. Who wants to explain to me the last clause of verse 2? The noise of the jumping chariots. Jumping chariots. Not jumping horses and their chariots. Jumping chariots. The hell? I got that boing, boing, boing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's Angie was typing at the same time as I was thinking it. Yeah, boing. It's like a fucking Van Buren Studios cartoon. If you know about the etymology or symbology or archaeology or something, rumble, rumble, whoosh, clank, thud. Yep. Yes. We have gone full onomatopoeia on the stream today. Boing, boing, rumble, rumble, whoosh, clank, thud. All right. So if you know what the deal is with the jumping chariot, I almost said the boinging chariots. With the jumping chariots, let me know in the comments below. If you're aware of some weird cultural or linguistic thing that's going on here or that's speculated to be going on here, let me know. All right, well, that's going to do us today. We've been going for 90 minutes, which is way longer than I normally stream or like to stream. But, y'all, come on. Didn't need a whole fucking stream for Nahum alone. That would have been a boring half-hour stream. And there's one thing I try not to be, it's boring. Many other things have I been known to try to be in my past. And in my present. Boring, not my brand. Goofy? Yeah. Blasphemous? Of course. Anal retentive? From time to time. Over-caffeinated chaos demon? It's been known to happen. Boring? Nah. All right. Well, thank you all for sticking with me. I see some folks had to peel out of the chats. Somebody's going on tour. I didn't catch the details of that, but bon voyage, harmonica man, and be safe out there, my friend. So we'll wrap it up here. I don't particularly have a good outro. I mean, I've got one, and Bree from Hive Science was kind enough to make it for me. I'll play that on the way out. But we'll stream again. We'll congregate again. What in the fuck will we do then? It'll be, I just dropped my bookmark, Hell's Bells. Habakkuk. The book of Habakkuk. You cannot make this shit up. When we come back next time, hopefully it won't be as long as a literal month, we'll do the book of Habakkuk, which is 3 chapters again. Until then, everybody take care. Be safe. And stand against hate. And I'll be back, I suppose. Stay safe out there, y'all.